I met Noah on an unusually warm evening in late October. The city buzzed with that strange, electric kind of calm that only happens right before everything changes. I wasn't looking for anything that night, just a drink, maybe a bit of quiet, but when he walked into the room, it felt like someone had turned the volume down on the world. He wasn't loud or flashy. In fact, he seemed almost uncomfortable with how much space he took up. But there was something in the way he looked at things, like he saw more than what was in front of him. That's what drew me in. We talked for hours. About books, music, the places we wanted to escape to, the people we used to be. He listened like it mattered, and I found myself saying things I hadn't said out loud in years. Vulnerability didn't feel like a risk with him, it felt like relief. By our third date, he was already brushing hair from my eyes like we'd been doing this for years. He was all small, tender things. Soft touches on the shoulder, warm glances across crowded rooms, lazy mornings with coffee and silence that didn't beg to be filled. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to earn someone's affection. It was just there, waiting, like a door he'd quietly left open for me. Our routines fell into place effortlessly. Thursday dinners. Sunday morning walks. Late-night confessions whispered into pillows. He became the constant I didn't know I needed. The quiet anchor in my otherwise restless world. I remember thinking, if love looks like this, then I must have been wrong about it all along. Still, there were moments that tugged at the edges. Times when he drifted off mid-conversation, or flinched slightly when I reached for his phone by accident. I chalked it up to old wounds, maybe some ghosts he hadn't shaken yet. We all have them, I thought. I didn't push. Looking back now, maybe I should have. Maybe I would have seen it coming. But I didn't. Because when someone gives you warmth in a world that so often feels cold, you don't question it. You pull it closer. You trust it. And I trusted him. Entirely. I remember the night I told him I loved him. He didn't say it back. Not then. But he kissed me slow and held my hand all the way home. That was enough. I believed it meant something. It did mean something. Just not what I thought it did. If I could freeze time anywhere in our story, it would be here, right before the unraveling, before the shadows stretched long and the air grew thick with silence. This was the part where everything still felt whole. But love has its seasons. And I didn't know it then, but we were already at the edge of ours. It started with silence. Not the peaceful kind we used to share over morning coffee, but the kind that fills the space between two people who used to know each other. Noah grew quieter, and I didn't know how to ask why without sounding insecure. At first, I convinced myself it was work. He'd taken on a new design project, long nights, tight deadlines, endless client calls. But even his exhaustion felt distant, rehearsed, like he was reading from a script he'd written without me. He stopped meeting my eyes when he spoke. His texts, once warm and filled with tiny affections, became cold acknowledgments. Yeah. Be home late. Don't wait up. I kept waiting for the old Noah to resurface. Instead, I found myself speaking into a void. I tried to bridge the gap. I cooked his favorite meals. Left handwritten notes beside his toothbrush. Played the playlists we used to dance to on slow Sunday mornings. But he'd just smile, say, thanks, and drift back into whatever space he was guarding. Then came the message. I didn't mean to see it. His phone lit up while he was in the shower. A preview, a name, Jamie. A single red heart beside the message. That was all. My heart didn't sink. It jolted like a reflex. A punch before the pain. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. That small symbol said enough. When he returned, towel around his neck, humming like nothing had shifted, I asked. Softly. Just the name. He paused. Too long. Then smiled, a little too quickly. Just a friend. We're working on a project. I nodded. He leaned in, kissed my forehead, and went to the bedroom. And I just stood there, staring at the empty space he'd left behind. That night, I couldn't sleep. I watched him breathe in the dark, watched his back rise and fall, wondering if he'd already turned away from me long before I'd noticed. I thought of every glance he avoided, every weekend he claimed he needed to catch up on work, every time his phone buzzed and he moved to another room. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. That love sometimes came with shadows, but that didn't mean the light was gone. But something was different. I could feel it every time I reached for his hand and he pulled it away too quickly. Every time his smile seemed practiced. Every time he said he loved me, but wouldn't quite look at me when he did. I didn't know if I was losing him or if I'd already lost him. But I did know one thing. If I wanted the truth, I was going to have to stop pretending it wasn't already in front of me. That evening felt different from the moment I stepped off the train. The air was unusually still. The sky, drained of color, hung low with the weight of rain that never came. I hadn't told Noah I was coming home early. My meeting had ended ahead of schedule, and some part of me, maybe the part that still wanted to believe in us, hoped he'd be happy to see me. Our apartment building was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that hums with a warning. I walked up the stairs slowly, each step tightening something in my chest I didn't have the words to name. My hand trembled slightly as I unlocked the door. Inside, the lights were dimmed, the hallway cloaked in soft shadows. I called his name once. No answer. Then I heard it. Laughter. Low, intimate, and not alone. I followed the sound. His bedroom door was slightly ajar. From the narrow gap, I saw a flicker of movement, 2 figures on the bed, a shared closeness that made my stomach twist. I didn't want to look. Every cell in my body screamed to turn away. But something stronger, something desperate, pushed me forward. I opened the door. And I saw it. Noah, shirt half off, tangled in sheets with someone I didn't recognize. Someone who laughed like they'd been there before, someone who reached for him the way I used to. Jamie. The room froze. Or maybe I did. Noah's eyes locked with mine. Wide. Empty. Not with guilt, but panic, like he'd been caught stealing something and didn't know how to run. Jamie shifted, startled, pulling the blanket up, their face flushed not just with exposure, but realization. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My breath caught somewhere between rage and heartbreak. Not just because of what I saw, but because of how comfortable they looked together. How natural. As if I'd simply walked into a scene that had been rehearsed behind my back too many times to count. Noah stood up, stammering my name. I stepped back. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I didn't beg for an explanation I knew I didn't want to hear. I just left. I closed the door behind me, gently, as if noise might make it worse. I walked down the stairs on legs that barely held me. The street outside was still quiet, the sky still heavy. But now I understood why. It had been building to this all along. And as I disappeared into the night, one thought echoed in my mind, louder than his voice, clearer than the betrayal I'd just witnessed. He chose this. He chose this. The days that followed felt like static. I moved through them like a shadow, present but untouchable. I ignored Noah's calls. I left his messages unread. There was nothing he could say that would unsee what I had walked into. Nothing that would unfeel the hollow ache now living in my chest. Still, he tried. He came to the apartment twice. The first time, I stayed silent behind the door, listening to him plead with the wood between us. The second time, I wasn't there, but he left a note tucked under the door. 4 words, scribbled in shaky handwriting, "Please talk to me." I didn't. Because what was there to say? I had loved him in quiet, consistent ways. I had believed in the version of us that made the world feel less lonely. And he had unraveled that belief with one careless choice. But grief is strange. It doesn't just hurt. It questions. It makes you revisit every memory, searching for where the truth began to rot. I found myself replaying moments we shared, not to relive them, but to dissect them, looking for signs I had missed, clues I had ignored, warnings wrapped in smiles. Eventually, I agreed to see him. Not because I hoped for anything, but because I needed to hear him say it out loud. I needed confirmation that what I saw wasn't some cruel misunderstanding I had invented in my mind. We met at the park, the one where we had our first real conversation, seated beneath a rusted old lamppost. He looked different. Smaller, somehow. Guilt has a way of shrinking people. He didn't waste time with lies. "I messed up," he said. "It didn't mean anything." I looked at him then, really looked. And for the first time, I saw someone I didn't recognize. Not the man I fell in love with, but the one who had slowly stopped choosing me. So I asked, "Then why did it look like everything?" He had no answer. Just silence. Just shame. I stood up. "I loved you. That was real. What you did, that's your burden now." His eyes welled, but I didn't flinch. I had shed enough tears for both of us. I walked away that day without looking back, not out of strength, but necessity. Some goodbyes aren't explosions. They're quiet, final acknowledgments that something once beautiful no longer fits where you're going. And as I disappeared down the path, sunlight breaking through the clouds above, I felt it, not joy, not closure, but a flicker of peace. I had survived the truth. And in the end, that was enough.